The night they called the cops on me for parking in my own driveway, I was barefoot on the porch, coffee cooling in my hand, and my old Ford idling under the maple tree my dad planted the year I left for the academy. I just finished a long shift and wanted 5 quiet minutes with the flag my father folded for my mother on his last Memorial Day alive. Then I saw the HOA patrol truck creep by slow, deliberate, like a shark fin cutting the water. A flashlight beam sliced through the dark, found my license plate, and lingered. The guy lifted a phone. "Dispatch, we've got a resident refusing to comply." That was the moment I realized how fast old anger could wake up. Not over a truck, but over the arrogance of a stranger who didn't know that this driveway was all I had left of family. 3 months earlier, I'd moved back home after Mom passed. My wife Laura said, "The place felt like a hymn, old floors, new sunlight." We hung Dad's flag beside the porch light and kept the maple trimmed the way he liked it, leaving a shoulder-wide gap to frame the sunset. But the HOA wasn't the same one from my childhood. New board, new rules. Their beautification initiative came with a cheerful newsletter, full of clip art brooms and commandments that sounded less like care and more like control. No trucks overnight in driveways. No exterior flags larger than 3x5 without approval. No commercial-grade vehicles visible from the street. I wrote them a polite letter. Told them the Ford wasn't a work truck. It was a memory on 4 bald tires. Told them the flag stayed. They replied with a form number and a warning. At first, it was petty stuff. Yellow slips tucked under my wiper, flapping like cheap birds. Then came a certified letter. Final notice. I placed it in the kitchen drawer next to Mom's recipe cards. I figured my neighbors knew me. I've served this county for 22 years. I've helped their sons out of dumb decisions and sat quietly with their daughters when life went sideways. I never wore my badge at home here. I was just Matt, Laura's husband, somebody's son. But the HOA didn't see that. They saw a truck that didn't match their brochure. That night, I'd backed the Ford in after a funeral escort. The sun burned low over the lake. I leaned on the porch railing, letting the quiet settle. That's when I saw it. The HOA patrol rolling up again. Followed by a silver sedan with magnetic compliance officer stickers slapped on the doors like NASCAR decals. A woman stepped out neat, efficient, clipboard ready. "You can't leave that here," she said, tapping her pen. "We've warned you. Towing is authorized." Her voice was sharp enough to slice the calm in half. "It's my driveway," I told her. "My truck. It's staying. And I'm calling the police," she said, and did. The calm satisfaction of someone who'd been waiting for this moment all week. Something hot, steady began to hum in my chest. Not fear, just heat. I thought of Dad teaching me how to bleed brakes in this same driveway. Mom in her robe, waving to me from the porch when I'd pull up late. Tired but safe. The maple leaves whispered against each other like loose change in a pocket. I set my coffee down and felt that old stubbornness take root. This wasn't about a rule anymore. It was about respect, about who gets to define what home looks like. 2 patrol cars turned onto our street, slow and steady. Blue light washed across the maple, the Ford, and the porch. Neighbors peeked from behind blinds. The HOA woman folded her arms like a judge, waiting for a confession. The first officer stepped out, young, nervous. I recognized him. I'd interviewed him last spring. He didn't recognize me out of uniform. "Evening," he said. "We got a complaint about a vehicle violating community rules." "Evening," I said back. "That's my truck, and this is my driveway." The second officer rounded the bumper, an older man. We'd worked cases together. The second his eyes found mine, he froze. His mouth twitched into a barely there smile. "Sheriff," he murmured. Then he straightened, turned to the HOA woman, reset his face to professional blankness. "Let's talk," he said. The woman blinked. "Sheriff." She looked between us, her pen starting to tremble. It would have been easy to end it there, to pull rank and crush her with a title. But that kind of victory never fixes the rot. Pride's a clean blade, easy to use, hard to control. "Ma'am," I said quietly, "I didn't hide who I am. You called the police over a truck parked in the same driveway where my father taught me what honest work looks like. Let me tell you this as a neighbor before I tell you as sheriff. This isn't how we treat each other." Her jaw tightened. "Rules are rules. There's the letter," I said, "and then there's the intent. Rules should protect decency, not replace it. And decency isn't just neat lawns. It's recognizing the story behind what you see." Something shifted in her eyes, not surrender, but doubt. A hairline crack in certainty, the older officer spoke up. "From our perspective, this is civil, not criminal. We're here to keep the peace." "Keep the peace," I repeated. I liked those words. Moments later, a tow truck arrived, lights flashing like an unwanted spotlight. The driver stepped out, read the room, and froze. He knew me. Everyone in this county does, not because I seek attention, but because I've stood steady for a long time. Without a word, he reached up and killed his light bar. The HOA woman exhaled through her nose. "We've had complaints," she said, more softly now. "People think your truck lowers property values." I glanced at the house's silhouettes, watching like silent jurors. "Property values?" said. "Ask the veterans what it's worth to live where a flag can fly and a man can park the truck his father left him. Ask the families who sleep easy, knowing the folks on this street are neighbors, not informants." Her voice faltered. We have a process." "Then let's follow it," I said. "In daylight, at a table, with coffee, not with tow hooks and police lights where our kids play." The older officer nodded. The younger one relaxed. The tow driver looked grateful for permission to breathe. Finally, she said, "Fine, no tow tonight. But you'll need to file for an exception." "I'll file," I said. "And I'll bring a photo of my dad standing beside this truck the day he came home from the mill, hands cracked, heart full. Because if your rules can't make room for that, then maybe your rules need the tow truck." They left one by one, the HOA car, the cruisers, the tow truck. The street fell quiet again, like a lake after a storm. Laura stepped out, took my hand, and leaned against me. The Ford sat under the maple engine, ticking softly. My coffee had gone cold, but I took a sip anyway. It tasted like resolve. The next morning, I showed up at the HOA office in a plain shirt, no badge. I brought muffins from Mrs. Talbot's bakery and a folder with our state's property laws. Sugar and statute, side by side. We talked for 2 hours. I listened more than I spoke. I told them about escorting veterans' funerals, about the silence that falls when a folded flag crosses an intersection. I told them that a neighborhood isn't just paint color and lawn height, it's respect. By the end, the room was softer. Pens stopped scratching. People started nodding. Together, we rewrote the rule. Exceptions for legacy vehicles. For veterans, for public servants who needed their rigs closed during emergencies, a courtesy notice before any tow. A conversation before any confrontation. The woman from that night signed the amendment. Her hands didn't shake this time. "I'm sorry about what happened," she said quietly. "I'm sorry too," I told her. "I should have reached out sooner. We both could have." That evening, when I pulled into my driveway, the maple whispered like coins in a jar again. The flag caught the breeze just right. The Ford sat where it belonged. I didn't feel proud or victorious. I felt still, the kind of still that comes when the wind settles and the lake goes smooth. The neighborhood felt like itself again. Maybe even better. Sometimes standing up for what's right just means standing in your own driveway, firm, fair, open enough for others to step closer instead of backing away. Have you ever dealt with an HOA like this? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe and let's stand up together.